You know what's fascinating? When someone who's avoidant feels like they're losing control of you, they don't suddenly transform into a loving, consistent partner. No, they make one last dirty move. Here's what happens. The moment they realize their old tricks of silence, distance, or inconsistency don't work anymore, they turn to manipulation. It could be guilt, tripping, rewriting history, or throwing out a breadcrumb of affection to make you doubt yourself. Why do they do this? Because deep down, they don't want to lose the power they've had over your emotions. They're not fighting for you, they're fighting for the control they're about to lose. And here's the truth, when you see this last move for what it really is, not love, not care, but a desperate attempt to keep you small, you'll stop giving it your energy. The real power isn't in reacting to them. The real power is in standing firm, knowing who you are, and refusing to be pulled back into their cycle, because the moment you stop letting someone manipulate your peace, you reclaim your freedom. And trust me that freedom is worth more than any false connection they dangle in front of you. When we talk about the final dirty move, it's important to understand that what you're dealing with isn't some grand declaration of love or a genuine attempt to repair the relationship. It's manipulation in disguise. This is the moment when someone who has always leaned on avoidance realizes that their usual strategies of pulling away, staying silent, or keeping you on edge no longer have the same hold over you. They've run out of tools that once gave them power. So now they reach for one last tactic designed to shake your confidence and make you question everything you thought you knew. And the dangerous part is that this move often feels convincing because it comes dressed up as affection, vulnerability, or even reconciliation. Think about it. Maybe they suddenly send a heartfelt message after weeks of coldness, or they make a dramatic gesture that seems out of character. On the surface, it looks like progress. It feels like the very thing you've been waiting for. But look closer, and you'll notice that it's not about love, it's about control. The timing isn't accidental. They only show up when they feel you pulling away, when your energy is finally shifting back to yourself, when you've started to see through their cycle. That's when the manipulation kicks in, because the idea of losing their grip on you terrifies them more than losing you as a partner. What makes this so insidious is that it preys on your emotional investment. You've been conditioned to crave scraps of attention. So when they finally hand one to you, it feels powerful. It sparks hope. It makes you wonder if maybe, just maybe, this time is different. That's the very illusion they're banking on. They don't need to give you consistency or commitment. They just need to plant enough doubt in your mind that you stay tethered. And the moment you take that bait, you're back in their cycle, waiting, guessing, and sacrificing your peace all over again. The manipulation can take different forms. Sometimes it's guilt, tripping, reminding you of the good times, or painting themselves as the victim so you feel responsible for their pain. Sometimes it's rewriting history, telling you that things weren't as bad as you remember, that you're overreacting, that your feelings were misplaced. And other times it's the breadcrumb of affection, a sweet word here, a sudden compliment, an unexpected apology that doesn't come with changed behavior. Each of these is designed to make you second, guess yourself, to blur the clarity you've worked so hard to gain. But the truth is, none of this is rooted in genuine care for you. If it were, their actions would match their words consistently, not just in moments when they feel control slipping away. That's why this final move is so important to recognize. It's not a breakthrough, it's a tactic. It's not the start of something new. It's the last gasp of a pattern that only benefits them. And once you see it clearly for what it is, you stop confusing manipulation with love. You stop mistaking drama for depth, and in doing so, you reclaim the power they've been trying so hard to keep from you. When an avoidant feels that they're losing control, what they're really fighting to hold on to isn't you as a person, it's the control they've had over the dynamic. That control is what makes them feel safe. For someone who avoids closeness, intimacy can feel threatening, but power feels secure. The control allows them to decide when to engage and when to disappear, when to give affection and when to withhold it. It sets the rhythm of the relationship entirely on their terms while leaving you scrambling to adapt. The moment you stop playing by those rules, they sense that loss of control, and that's when the fight begins. This distinction is critical. If they were fighting for you, their behavior would look radically different. They would show consistency, effort, and a willingness to meet you in the middle. They would put energy into creating safety and connection. Instead, what you often see is a flurry of tactics designed to re-establish their dominance in the relationship. They're not trying to build a future, they're trying to reset the old imbalance that kept them comfortable. That's why it feels like they're pulling out all the stops only once you've stepped back or started to detach. It isn't because they suddenly value you more. It's because they sense they can no longer call the shots. When you think back to times in the relationship where you felt small, uncertain, or constantly questioning yourself, you'll likely notice a pattern. The avoidant partner didn't need to be present or loving all the time to keep control. They only needed to show up just enough to keep you hoping. That imbalance gave them power. You worked harder, you chased, you tried to fix, while they maintained emotional distance. It's a setup that leaves you giving far more than you're receiving, and they thrive in that space because it keeps the spotlight off their own lack of vulnerability. So when they realize you're no longer willing to dance in that pattern, the panic sets in. Their focus shifts to regaining the leverage they've lost, not repairing the damage they've caused. That's why they may suddenly become more communicative, make promises, or even show vulnerability. On the surface, it looks like love, but underneath, it's a strategy. If they can just pull you back into the loop of questioning, longing, or chasing, they'll feel in control again. It's not that they don't care at all, it's that their care is overshadowed by their need to avoid true intimacy and maintain the upper hand. The hard truth is this: if they were truly fighting for you, you wouldn't feel so confused. Love doesn't thrive in manipulation. Real connection doesn't require you to shrink or sacrifice your peace to make it work. The fight you're seeing isn't about protecting the relationship, it's about protecting their comfort zone. And until you see that difference clearly, you'll keep mistaking their struggle for you as evidence of love, when in reality, it's evidence of control slipping through their fingers. The tactics avoidants use when they feel their grip slipping are often subtle but incredibly powerful because they target your emotions at their most vulnerable points. One of the most common is guilt tripping. They remind you of everything they've done for you, no matter how small, or they position themselves as the victim of your distance. They might say things like, "I can't believe you just walk away after everything we've been through," or "I guess I was never enough for you." On the surface, these words look like emotional honesty, but what they really do is shift the blame onto you. Instead of acknowledging their lack of effort or emotional availability, they make you feel as though you're the one abandoning them, even though they've been emotionally absent all along. The guilt works because it touches the part of you that's deeply compassionate and doesn't want to hurt someone you care about. Another tactic is rewriting history. This one is especially damaging because it distorts your reality. They'll tell you that the relationship wasn't as bad as you remember, that you exaggerated problems, or that you were too sensitive. They might downplay arguments, dismiss hurtful actions, or even twist situations so that you're painted as the one at fault. Over time, this chips away at your confidence in your own judgment. You start to wonder if maybe you were too harsh, if maybe you misremembered, if maybe it was all in your head. This rewriting of history doesn't just defend their actions, it destabilizes your sense of reality, which makes it easier for them to pull you back into their cycle. If you're questioning your own memory or feelings, you're less likely to stand firm in your boundaries. Then there's breadcrumb affection. This is when they give you just enough to keep you hooked, but never enough to sustain a real connection. It could be a sudden compliment after weeks of indifference, a late night "I miss you" text without any follow-up effort, or a half-hearted apology that feels good in the moment but isn't backed by meaningful change. Breadcrumbs are powerful because they feed your hope. They give you the illusion that progress is happening, that maybe they're finally opening up, that maybe all the waiting was worth it. But the reality is, breadcrumbs are designed to keep you invested without requiring them to truly show up. They're a way of offering the bare minimum while maintaining the appearance of engagement. The most painful part of these tactics is how convincing they can be. Guilt makes you second. Guess whether you're being unfair. Rewriting history makes you doubt your truth. Breadcrumb affection makes you cling to the possibility of change. Each of these strategies is a psychological hook, pulling you back into a place where your energy is consumed by analyzing their behavior instead of protecting your own well-being. They don't need to fully win you back, they only need to keep you from moving on. That's the essence of control, keeping you emotionally tethered, even if the connection is toxic. When you recognize these patterns for what they are, the illusion begins to break. You start to see that guilt, tripping isn't love, it's deflection. Rewriting history isn't healing, it's manipulation. Breadcrumb affection isn't progress, it's a stall tactic. Each one is a strategy, not a sign of genuine care. And the sooner you stop confusing these tactics with love, the sooner you'll free yourself from their hold. Recognizing the pattern is the turning point. Up until that moment, you may have been caught in a cycle of hope, doubt, and disappointment, always wondering if this time would be different. But once you start to see their behavior for what it really is, a predictable set of tactics, rather than spontaneous acts of love, everything shifts. You begin to understand that it's not random, it's not complicated, and it's not your fault. It's a cycle that's designed to keep you tethered, and the only way it works is if you don't notice it. Awareness takes away its power. When you can name the guilt, tripping, when you can spot the rewriting of history, when you can call out the breadcrumbs for what they are, you stop falling for them. Instead of thinking, maybe they really do miss me, you think, there's the pattern again. That shift in perspective is massive because it turns what once felt like emotional chaos into something predictable and recognizable. Predictability kills the illusion. You no longer interpret their sudden attention as love. You see it as a strategy to pull you back in. That clarity doesn't erase the sting, but it does stop you from being blindsided. The reason this recognition is so powerful is that it restores your sense of reality. Manipulation works best in the shadows when you're confused, when you're questioning your own memory, when you're unsure of your worth. The moment you shine a light on the behavior, it becomes less effective. You stop internalizing the blame they try to place on you. You stop doubting your own judgment. You start to trust your instincts again. That's when their power weakens because the hooks they relied on to keep you entangled no longer stick in the same way. Of course, recognizing the pattern doesn't mean the emotional pull disappears overnight. The breadcrumbs might still feel tempting, the guilt, trips might still sting, the rewritten history might still make you pause. But awareness creates a pause between their action and your reaction. In that pause, you get to choose differently. Instead of automatically defending yourself or trying to prove your worth, you can step back and say, "This isn't about me, this is about them trying to keep control." That single moment of awareness is where freedom begins. It's also worth noting that recognizing the pattern often makes the avoidance tactics intensify, at least at first. When they realize their usual moves aren't working, they may double down, becoming more dramatic or pulling out new tricks to regain their grip. That's why it's so crucial to stay steady. The fact that their behavior escalates isn't proof of love. It's proof that they're losing the control they once had. If you misread that escalation as passion or commitment, you get sucked right back in. But if you hold onto your clarity, you see it for what it is, desperation, not devotion. The more you practice recognizing these cycles, the stronger you become. What once confused you starts to feel obvious. What once made you question yourself now confirms your decision to stand firm. Every time you catch the pattern instead of falling for it, you reinforce your own strength. That's how you break the cycle, not by changing them, but by refusing to be controlled by tactics that once held you captive. True strength is not about how much you can endure, how long you can wait, or how many times you can forgive someone who keeps showing you the same cycle. Real strength is in the choice to value your own peace and self-worth over the temporary comfort of familiar chaos. When you stop letting someone manipulate your emotions, you reclaim power they've been using against you, sometimes without even realizing it. Strength is not about clinging tighter to someone who keeps pulling away. It's about having the courage to let go when their actions no longer align with the love and respect you deserve. Choosing peace over manipulation doesn't mean you stop caring, and it doesn't mean you suddenly feel nothing for the person. It means you recognize that caring for them can't come at the expense of caring for yourself. You realize that your mental clarity, your emotional health, and your ability to move forward are worth protecting. Avoidants thrive when they know they can trigger you into reacting, doubting yourself, or fighting for their approval. The moment you refuse to engage in that game, the power dynamic shifts. You're no longer the one chasing. You're the one standing firm, rooted in your own value. There's a quiet kind of strength in not responding to every message, in not defending yourself against every guilt trip, in not trying to prove your worth when they rewrite the story. That silence isn't weakness, it's discipline. It's choosing to prioritize your energy instead of wasting it on battles that lead nowhere. When you practice this, you'll notice something. The drama begins to lose its pull. The hooks don't sink as deep. You no longer feel the same compulsion to explain yourself or win them over. That's because you've shifted your focus from controlling the uncontrollable to protecting what's within your control, your peace. Self-worth plays a massive role here. When you deeply believe that you are worthy of consistent, respectful love, you stop accepting crumbs as proof of someone's feelings. You stop mistaking manipulation for passion. You stop bargaining with your own needs just to keep someone else comfortable. That inner worth acts as a filter, helping you see more clearly when someone's actions don't match their words. Instead of getting swept into their story, you anchor yourself in your own. And from that place, their tactics no longer feel powerful, they feel transparent. It's important to understand that choosing peace doesn't always look glamorous. Sometimes it looks like sitting with the discomfort of silence. Sometimes it looks like grieving what could have been while still refusing to go back. Sometimes it looks like saying no to the fleeting comfort of their attention because you know it comes with too high a cost. That's the part that requires strength, the willingness to sit in the discomfort now so that you can protect your long-term well-being later. Every time you choose peace over manipulation, you're reinforcing your own boundaries. You're teaching yourself that your energy is precious, that your heart deserves safety, and that your life cannot be dictated by someone else's fear of intimacy. That is where freedom comes from. Not from changing them, not from waiting for them to evolve, but from standing so firmly in your own worth that their games no longer move you. That kind of strength isn't loud, but it's unshakable, and once you've tapped into it, you'll never mistake control for love again. At the end of the day, the final dirty moves avoidants use aren't signs of love, they're signs of control slipping away. The real victory isn't in getting them to change, but in choosing yourself, protecting your peace, and refusing to be drawn back into cycles that steal your worth. True love never requires you to shrink, doubt, or beg for crumbs. It flows freely, consistently, and with respect. Thank you for giving me your time and energy today. I hope these words remind you that your value is non-negotiable and your freedom is always worth fighting for.